Hello and welcome to Moms on Mics. I'm Joanne.
I'm Cash.
And I'm Sophia.
This week we are going to go through the testimony of Lisa Sakevicius, and that's the last time you're going to hear that last name. We are going to refer to her as simply Lisa. Lisa is a criminalist at the Arkansas State Crime Lab. She does hair and fiber comparisons, gunshot residue, arson analysis, glass and paint comparisons, and she has a degree in chemistry from the University of Central Arkansas. She attended an accelerated detection course at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, a polarized light microscopy course from Micron Institute, a man-made fiber identification course from the Micron Institute, various workshops on different areas of trace analysis, a human hair comparison course hosted by the Southern Association of Forensic Scientists, and has extensive in-laboratory training. I'm sorry, what? Learn how to compare hair and fiber and like courses. Does it not seem like it would be one class that you would do all this in? Like, do you have like a hair specialist and then like a fiber specialist and she just happen to get multiple?
I don't know. Thinking about CSI, they do it all, don't they?
That's what I thought, right? I wonder if it was like the mail-in situation.
I was gonna say, have you institute that she was there?
I should have looked that up and I did not.
Just to see what it would be like?
Yeah. Well, let's hope it was an actual school. Well, we're going to hope it was. Okay, so Lisa examined the knots and ligatures of Michael Moore, Stevie Branch, and Christopher Byers. Lisa stated that regarding Michael Moore, the left wrist consisted of a square knot, the left ankle that was also a square knot, and she also removed a skin tag from inside the loop. The right ankle knot was a series of 4 half hitches, and the right wrist knot was a series of 3 half hitches. And the only difference between the wrist and the ankle was 1 additional half inch. Hey, Sophia, did you ever look into all these knots? Wasn't it you that was going to look into how they tie these?
Was it me?
I think so. Yeah.
I do remember that conversation. I was going to look into how knots were tied. Okay, yeah, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I can.
No, it's fine. Oh, you don't have to. I was just curious if you ever did. That's all. So the left side was tied with square knots, the right with half hitches. On Stevie Branch, the right leg knot was a series of 3 half hitches, and the loop around the leg was tied twice. The right wrist was a half hitch with a figure 8. The left leg knot was a series of 3 half hitches. The left wrist knot was also a series of 3 half hitches. So again, on the left wrist, you have one type of knot, and on the left ankle, you have the exact same knot. And on the right side, you had something kind of a conglomeration of things. And Christopher Byers, the knots were a series of 2 half hitches, both on the left and right. Sorry, on the ankle, and the wrist are double half hitches in all knots. So every knot was the same. Wow. I'm so confused.
I was gonna say, what does a hitch in a knot look like?
I don't know. Sophia?
At GPT. What does a hitch?
Because to me, it would be like a loop, right? But then it doesn't make sense.
And it's also kind of strange how they talk about like the left wrist was tied in one way and then the left ankle was tied when the wrist was tied to the ankle. So did they tie it around the ankle first and then tie it around the wrist?
Or was it 2 people tying them?
But who, like however many people, right?
So a hitch in a knot occurs when one part of the rope wraps around another and locks it in place, creating friction and preventing the knot from loosening. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
God damn, that's, but I'm gonna say that's not normal knot tying, right?
No, like you have to, I think you would learn this
Yeah.
in a special, so let's see. I'll ask what type of people.
So I have this one gate that's like on the side of the house. And so the gate is fixed to the fence, but it's not fixed to anything on the other side. So it just kind of swings open, right? So I was like, this is super annoying and I don't want the kids to go back there. So I tied in a rope around it, around like the gate. And then I tied another, like the other end, I made like a loop so I can hook it over the faucet that's out there, right? But then when the wind blows the gate, like pushes against the gate as if it's trying to open the gate, it makes the knot around the faucet really tight.
Well, it almost looks like a lasso, like a cowboy
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. And I'm like, how can I possibly tie this knot any other way? And I've tried so many different things, like with my limited knot tying experience, which is like how you tie shoes without the bunny ears. That's
That's
where
all
I'm
I
at.
know.
Yeah,
I
that's
only know
all
it
I
that
know.
way.
You
So
gotta
I
tie it in a way where it's like you're tying up a horse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to
never
explain
tied
it,
up a
but
horse.
and then a horse can't get out, right? Because it's not like a knot, like it's super easy to undo for us, but whatever's attached to it couldn't.
See, and I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
if there's ever a situation when I'm on a boat and that boat needs to be tied to something, not me, man.
Yeah.
Somebody else, because that boat in the morning will be drifted
We'll be
away.
gone.
'Cause I have no idea. I can
Yeah.
tie one type of knot, that's it. So these seem like they're super complicated, right? Like they're maybe not complicated to some people, but they're not your standard, this is how I tie a shoe or how I would tie a package type, right? Like,
And especially with a shoelace.
yeah,
Like that would seem to be like a thicker rope you would want to tie it with, not a shoelace.
yeah. So if anyone knows, correct us if we're wrong, but I feel like these kind of knots are beyond what the average person is going to know.
Right.
I feel like you've done some kind of Boy Scouts or hiking, or you have some kind of extra experience, I guess, than just being taught how to tie shoes.
Which makes sense for the one that had the Cub Scout shirt
Oh
on.
yeah. So it
Yeah.
says here firefighters, rock climbers, sailors, arborists, cowboys, truck drivers, campers, fishermen, theater and stage riggers, military, search and rescue. So it's
Yeah,
fairly commonly used,
it
uh,
is, but
but
not
not by
necessarily.
like us. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it would have to be somebody that
And I would say the average teenager may not,
absolutely not.
right? Like, unless they have been in Cub Scouts, Boy
Yeah.
Scouts, or if they're like avid hikers, whatever, someone may have taught them that, but majority of people probably just don't know how to tie
Yeah.
those extra knots.
Lisa also works with identifying fibers. To do that, they have two sets of clothing, or sometimes bedding or other items. They use a piece of tape and collect fibers from them and attach the tape to a glass slide. Clip a standard from all the applicable items, ones that have good color or fiber types in them. Then take a standard and smear it across a glass slide. Then compare the two similarities. If they find ones that look good, they then take it off the slide and do a microscopic on it to make sure that it looks similar and identify the basic fiber type involved. If it passes this test, they put it on an instrument called a microspectrophotometer to look at the dyes in the fibers to see that they have the same curves. If they pass this test, they're a synthetic type fiber. Then they put on an instrument called a Fourier.
Oh, okay. Instrument called a Fourier? Fourier. Fourier. Fourier.
Fourier.
Yeah.
If they pass this test and there is a synthetic type fiber and they put them on an instrument called a Fourier transform infrared spectrophotometer to see that the basic polymers that make up the fiber are the same. Polymers are a synthetic material. They are usually made out of petroleum products. It's sort of like a plastic. Fogelman begins his questioning by asking Lisa to explain to the jury what primary transfer and secondary transfer is. Lisa says primary transfer is if I touched one of you and then did tape lifts and I found fibers from my items on you, that would be considered a primary transfer. A secondary transfer would be if you touched someone else and then tape lifts were done on that person and fibers from me were found on that person. That would be considered a secondary transfer. And that you also get secondary transfers in situations where clothes are hanging together in the closet. Fogelman asked what the condition of the clothing items were when she received them at the lab. Lisa explained that a pair of blue jeans were found inside out and they were heavily soiled, and that there was some white paper in the sack, because in the laboratory, they examined the items on clean sheets of paper. Then they fold them back up and put them back in the sack. When they received the items, they were still damp, so they took all the items out and placed them on a white paper and then covered them with white paper for them to dry over the weekend before she started her analysis. And that after they dried, they were put in the same sacks used that they were received in.
Fogelman then asks, June the 3rd, did you participate in a search of the residence of Damien Eccles? And as a result of your prior examination of fibers found on the victim's clothing, were there particular fiber types that you were looking for? Lisa said that she did attend the search and that she examined the slides from the victims and tried to find similarities in fiber types, which could have come from that were different from the constituency of the clothing they were wearing, which could have come possibly from an assailant. And I had in my mind a number of fiber types that I had seen there. She talks about a blue shirt seized from Damien Eccles' residence and a bathrobe recovered from the residence of Jason Baldwin's. It's important to note, as the prosecution don't, that the bathrobe was found hanging on the back of the bathroom door and wasn't actually Jason's. It was his mother's. She did some comparisons with items from fibers found on the blue pants and Cub Scout hat of the victims. She said the fiber was a green polyester that microscopically similar to the fibers used in the construction of the blue shirt of Damien's. Fogelman makes a point to ask, by the way, what was the fiber content of that shirt? Lisa replies, cotton polyester blend. Fogelman then says, all right. And on State's Exhibit 8, which is the Cub Scout cap, you found one green polyester fiber, which was microscopically similar to this shirt. Lisa replies, correct. Fogelman, now, in what fibers, if any, for comparison, did you find on State Exhibit 45, which is E3, the blue pants? Lisa, I found a green cotton and green polyester fiber microscopically similar to this same item. Fogelman, all right, so on this exhibit, the pair of blue pants, States Exhibit 45, you found one cotton and one polyester, which were microscopically similar to the fibers contained in the same shirt. Lisa replies, correct. Lisa looked at the fibers under microscopes, 20 times to 400 times magnification, and compared things like color, shape, and thickness, and chemical makeup, which again indicates that the clothing was made with similar materials. The microspectrophotometer analyzes dye color patterns. The Fourier transform infrared analyzes the chemical composition of synthetic fibers. Lisa found fibers on certain items that were similar to fibers from clothing belonging to the suspects. A green polyester fiber on a Cub Scout cap, similar to fibers from a shirt, green cotton and polyester fibers on blue pants. Similar to that same shirt, a red rayon fiber on another shirt, similar to a robe from a suspect's house. However, they are not unique. They are not definitive matches. They cannot prove who they came from, and they could be explained by normal everyday contact or transfer. It's important to remember, mass-produced clothing is made of the same materials. For example, cotton polyester blend come from the same manufacturer production line and are dyed using the same process and batch. The fibers can be the same type, cotton polyester rayon, the same color dye profile, and very similar in shape, thickness, and chemical makeup. So under a microscope, and even with advanced tests, they may appear microscopically similar. Fiber analysis cannot prove it came from a specific person's clothing. It could have come from another identical shirt, a similar product from a different store, or even common environmental sources like blankets, furniture, laundry. It's like finding a white cotton thread consistent with a t-shirt that could match thousands or millions of shirts. This is not the gotcha moment for that Fogelman made it out to be, and unfortunately, that the jury believed it was also.
Yeah, this is so infuriating. So the majority of their shirts were basically from Walmart. And so if you think about it, when you go into Walmart and you look at all their t-shirts in like the teenager section, whatever, and they're all these like concert t-shirts or whatever, they've all got like some kind of picture on them, right? They're all made at the same place. They're all made with the same fibers, the same types of dyes. However, so are all the shirts at Walmart that are in the youth section and the adult section and the baby section. They're all the same. So even though they're like, this shirt, this fiber matched a shirt we found at Damien's house, it also, if they'd have tested it, would have matched a shirt they found at every single person's house in that area. Mm-hmm. If they bought a shirt from Walmart, right? This is why fiber analysis is not reliable, but we didn't really know that back then. But this, they did know back then. They did know that the fibers could have been from anybody's shirts, anybody that had the same color in their shirts. So it's really infuriating, especially because the jury were sitting there and they're like, oh my God, the fibers match. Which I don't blame the jury for that because, of course, like that seems so legitimate, right? Like the fiber from that person's shirt was on the dead body. Like, well, clearly they did it. But when you really explain where the fibers, how they can all be similar, it's useless. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Fogelman does say, all right, now just so the jury understands, okay, you're not suggesting that Damien wore this little shirt or that Jason wore the bathrobe. Is this where secondary transfer may come into play? They actually had this little itty bitty shirt and they tried to get Damien to try it on. Like, what the fuck? So, and while Lisa says, yes, it's possible, it's also possible that the transfer occurred from anyone at any time. So Fogelman will, however, go over every piece of fiber discovered, and Lisa will give the same very sciencey, quote-unquote sciencey answer each time. This is a good tactic by the prosecution because he either impresses or bores the jury with the so-called science stuff. It all sounds very sciencey, so it must be factual. Fogelman does ask, okay, did you recover on a sheet a single negroid hair? To which Lisa explains there was a single negroid hair recovered off of a sheet. I believe it was off the buyer's, used to cover the buyer's child. And that's it. That's the only mention of the hair. That's it. He doesn't ask anything further. Like, that actually pisses me off so much. Mm-hmm. And while, yes, Lisa could look at a color thickness scale patterns and pigment distribution, however, this was 1993 and there was only so much that she could do. She could say, this hair is consistent with this person, but not this hair came from this person. The same issue as fiber evidence class characteristics, not unique identification. While DNA testing did exist in 1993, it required a hair root, the follicle, and most crime scene hairs are shed hairs, not root. Without a root, nuclear DNA testing was not possible. There was early mitochondrial DNA work, but it wasn't widely used in court yet, and it can only narrow to a maternal line, not a single individual. It could also match many other people. It's not like a unique identifier. Even though hair evidence back then was more like this could belong to them, not this definitely belongs to them. The one thing it could say for certain was the hair being one from a person of a specific color did not belong to Jesse Miskelly, Jason Baldwin, or Damien Eccles. So Fogelman passes the questioning over to the defense attorney, Price. Price asks Lisa to repeat the sentence in her report to the jury and explain what it means. So Lisa reads, "It is pointed out that fibers do not possess a sufficient number of unique individual microscopic characteristics to be positively identified as having originated from a particular person, to the exclusion of all others. It should say item instead of person." So this means that if you were to go to Walmart, you'll see a rack of clothing and all clothing. Oh, I'm explaining what I explained earlier. That's okay. We'll hear it one more time. So this means that if you were to go to Walmart, you'll see a rack of clothing and all the clothing on it is the same. It could be that all the fibers were made at the same time and they'll have the same characteristics. And a number of people might have that garment in their household. So if I find a fiber similar to another item, it doesn't necessarily mean it came from that item. It could have come from any one of these other items that was hanging on that rack.
Do you know how many people have probably touched that?
Well, that's just it too, right? Like, so you walk past, like, let's say it was definitely from Damien or Jesse or Jason, right? What if they walked past the rack at Walmart and they got the secondary transfer, and then the person who bought the shirt didn't wash the shirt first before wearing it, and then they committed the murders? That could fall on, right? And I get that's a lot of what ifs that have to happen, but this whole case is filled with what ifs, right?
And I have done Ancestry and 23andMe, so doing that mtDNA thing, it is a very wide group.
Yeah.
So like you're put into like, let's say F1, for example, and it could be like millions of people in it. It's not just one person. So you'd be going through that like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Price asked Lisa if she is familiar with a book, Forensic Science Handbook by Richard Saperstein, and if she could read a paragraph for the jury. Lisa reads, "The limits of human hair comparison should be explained to the jury. Even though the questioned hairs may be similar in all respects to a person's hair and dissimilar to most other hair, the forensic examiner can never say with certainty that there might not be another individual who possesses similar hair." Price questions if the same would be so for fiber. Lisa states that it would be. Price also says, in reviewing your testimony, it's your testimony that there was that one green cotton fiber and that was recovered on the pants of Michael Moore. Inside the pocket of the pants of Michael Moore, Lisa replies, a pair of blue pants, correct. Price then asks Damien to come forward, saying, all right, try to put this shirt on if you can. Then after he attempts, Price says, all right, Judge, I'd like the record to reflect that my client cannot put on this blue t-shirt. Then turns to Lisa asking, can you state the size number for that tag? Lisa says 6. Price then asks, and does that have some kind of label or description of what type of shirt it is? To which Lisa says, Garnimals. Lisa would also testify that there were 2 green polyester fibers recovered from the blue pants and 1 recovered from the Cub Scout hat. And these were also microscopically similar to the polyester fibers that make up that t-shirt. And that if there's any type of Garnimals shirt that has the same cotton poly blend as that particular shirt would also be microscopically similar. And that and that it's possible that if there were other clothing that was made by the same company, by the same dye lots, or are of a different size, perhaps then that also could be microscopically similar to the questioned hair found on these items examined. She also testified that 3 red cotton fibers microscopically similar to those used to construct a t-shirt found at Damien Eccles' house were found on one of the shoelaces used to bind Stevie Branch. There was also hairs found, one that did not match either Damien, Jason, or Jesse, one that belonged to a black male, and fibers from some type of a bag that was found at the crime scene. The bag contained 1 pair of blue jeans, a black thermal undershirt, a pair of white socks, 2 Bic razors, 1 plastic bag, and 1 tan short sleeve shirt. The items in the bag were never connected to the West Memphis 3.
Which is fucking infuriating, right? Did we talk about this bag before?
I think briefly we touched on it.
Because we
I
figured.
don't remember talking about this bag at all.
Okay, maybe we didn't. So there was a homeless person living in the area, which they believe is the owner of said bag, right? So if the fibers from the bag that belonged to the homeless person living in the area were found on the bodies, would that not connect said homeless person?
Right.
Like, it's so annoying. They just don't have any forensic evidence that connects the West Memphis 3 to the crimes. But they have forensic evidence to connect other people, but they just were like, what do we do about that? Who knew?
It's important to note that the fibers were not a definite match. Forensic science at the time could only establish that fibers were microscopically similar in color, shape, and composition. It is impossible to state with absolute certainty that a single fiber originated from one specific garment because multiple items of clothing are often manufactured using the exact same fiber type and dye. Some fibers said to be matching Damien Eccles' clothing also matched items found in the victim's own homes, such as a shirt from the Moore household. This meant the fibers could have come from either source, making the link to defendants inconclusive. The fiber evidence used against Damien Eccles and Jason Baldwin will actually be discredited later by independent experts and modern forensic analysis. In 2012, 3 forensic scientists reanalyzed the fibers and concluded the original trial testimony was wrong. They stated that the fibers should have been clearly described as unrelated to the items taken from the defendants' homes. Price continues with his questioning. Price brings up the fact that there was 1 Negro hair found on a white sheet that was used to cover the body of Christopher Byers, and asked if she had been able to compare that 1 Negro type hair with any other hairs that she might have been sent during this examination. Lisa said, "No, I have not." Price also asked if you sometimes receive hair that might belong to a police officer that might be out at the crime scene to rule out that particular police officer as a source of a particular hair, and if she ever received any Negro type hairs from any West Memphis police officers to compare with this question hair. Lisa says it is possible that hair belonging to a police officer that was out at the crime scene can end up being the source. But no, I did not receive any hairs from the West Memphis police officers to compare it to. The fact that this hair is found doesn't match any of the accused, nor any family members or investigators, so it simply dropped. It's so frustrating, especially when Mr. Bojangles was black. And remember, Dawn Moore, Michael's sister, had been out riding her bike the day the boys disappeared when she saw 3 teenagers, 1 white, 2 black, coming out of the woods. They asked her, "Do you want a shot?" In the interest of saving time, just like other testimony we've done, we aren't going through every line. So we're moving on to Ford's questioning about the knots.
But it is super frustrating. This hair is like the most obnoxious part. And not to mention the fact that they didn't save the samples, like they lost the samples from the Bojangles restaurant, right? So that is also super frustrating. Questioning then moves to Ford, who asks, now let's go back to these knots. Do you have any evidence whatsoever that Jason Baldwin tied any of those knots? Lisa replies, no, I do not. Ford then asks, do you have any evidence whatsoever to indicate who tied those knots? Lisa says, I can't tell that from my examination. Ford then says, okay, so you don't know who tied the knots, and you definitely don't know, you're not definitely not telling the jury that Jason Baldwin tied those knots. And you're definitely not telling this jury that you found a fiber on the shirt that came from his robe. To which Lisa says, I am not saying that. Ford then passes the witness back to Fogelman. Fogelman asks, all right, also, there was a question they asked about the cotton fiber and the match, and then also about some red cotton fibers that match not only a shirt from Damien's, but also a garment from the Moore's house. Is that correct? Lisa explains, that's correct. That's not a difference in the ability to match cotton fibers as opposed to synthetic fibers, but there's less significance of the match. Cotton is much more common. In fact, there are some types of cotton we won't even analyze for very light colors of blue denim. We don't examine for because they're too common. When asked about the other items found at the scene, Lisa says she has one razor. It was broken head, not completely broken off. All items packaged together in a brown paper bag. No attempt was made to discriminate where the fibers originated, meaning which particular item, because they were all packaged together. They were wet. They were also moldy, but none of the victims' clothing were moldy. Lisa testified that a red cotton fiber matched the garment from Damien Eccles' home, also matched a garment from the Moore's home. The fibers in clothing from the Baldwin's house, the Eccles house, the Miskelly house, the Morris house, and the Byers house. None matched fibers that were similar in characteristics to the robe, and no fibers were similar in characteristics to the shirt. Okay.
Yeah, we're just talking a lot about fibers.
Yeah.
We could have just like condensed this and been like,
the fibers match, but didn't really
fibers
mean
are
fuck
irrelevant.
all. Yeah, exactly.
In this case.
Yeah.
Fogelman had no further questions, but Ford had a few follow-ups. Ford asked about the razor found. Were they partially broken? Was the bottom part of the guard, was that broken off? Was the handle broken off? But Lisa said, I don't recall. Ford then, why she drove from Little Rock or the surrounding area to West Memphis to two homes. But you didn't drive from Little Rock to Blytheville to check the residence of another home? You never went to Blytheville to look in the home that Stevie Branch lived in? Lisa said, correct. Ford asked, okay, did you ever go to the residence of Stevie's father? Mom and Dad are divorced, who still lived in West Memphis. Did you ever go to his house? Lisa says no. This again is incredibly frustrating. No search was ever done of Terry Hobbs' house, not only for the matching fibers, but remember, there were 2 pairs of missing underwear and 5 socks missing. Why were all the parents' homes not searched day 1? Ford moves on to ask, Lisa, would you agree with me that this is a woman's robe? Lisa says yes, then says she thinks she found the robe in a bedroom in the back, possibly in the closet, but she is not certain. And she also didn't know if it was hanging, folded, or laying on the floor. Ford then asks, okay, lastly, did you ever look at the knife to determine if there was a red fiber in this knife that might be microscopically similar to the fiber that you found on this shirt? Did you ever do that? Lisa says, I don't think so. I did not labeled that item as being looked at.
I'm sorry, but if you're the person going into these homes and taking out these items, should you not know, or at least have made note of where each item was?
Yeah.
Like, that seems like pretty basic shit, right? Like, Not to mention the fact they didn't search the parents' fucking houses. Day one. That is absolute bullshit.
This whole case is bullshit, though.
It is. And it's so annoying. Like, you start with the parents and then work your way outwards, right? Like, that's the way it goes. And they just never did. They never searched any of their homes. And not necessarily even to implicate either of the parents, but what if someone had been stalking one of these boys and had been in the home before? What if there was clues that they had made friends with somebody that they shouldn't have made friends with, right? Like, there could be so much information in their homes on the first day. If they would have searched them, who knows what they would have found? It's, grr.
Ford. Okay, so if there has been testimony previously that there was a red fiber visible in there, you never looked at that red fiber to see if it matched to the fiber Baldwin's exhibit number 1? Lisa, if it was visible to the naked eye, it probably did not match. Ford says, okay, but did you not look? You did not do that, did you? Lisa, no, I didn't.
We then have a weird interaction between the judge and Scott Davidson, a defense attorney who represented Damien Eccles. Before Fogelman steps in to ask the questions the judge wanted to ask, the court, I want one of you to ask whether or not you know this about the type. I want someone to ask, or I will, whether or not fiber could commonly transfer from washing and drying in the household. All right, what's your question? Davidson, Your Honor, the fiber that was visible in there the other day is no longer there. The court, gee, what do you want me to do? Davidson, I don't know, but I think we need to, the court. I'm sure we can find. Davidson said it was there. I mean, he looked at it and said it was there and that he transferred it over. The court, well, I don't know. Fogelman, I saw a red fiber in there too. I don't remember if it was there when we got the knife, but I did see a red fiber. The court, I don't have any idea how to answer that question. You don't think it's about time for a recess, do ya? Fogelman, I'll ask her this question about the court. All right. Fogelman, one more question. In the secondary transfer of fibers, what happens when clothes are washed together? Lisa, fibers are redistributed around.
This
Fogelman,
fucking judge, man.
okay. Is that another way of getting secondary transfer of fiber? You wash your clothes together and then you get fibers from another. Like I had a fiber from my clothing that got on this shirt, and I came into contact with Mr. Davis, and could it transfer? Lisa, that is correct. Fogelman, I don't have any further questions, Your Honor. Ford. So it's also possible, isn't it, Lisa, based on that question, that the red fiber could have been on that young man's shirt that morning when he got up and put it on and went to school, because it could have gotten in the dryer from some other source in his own household, couldn't it? Lisa, I can't say what the source is. Ford, okay. Lisa, of the fiber. Ford, but that shirt being washed and dried with another shirt could be the very source of the red fiber transfer, could it not? That's possible, isn't it? Lisa, which household was that from? Ford, I don't know. They never identified what shirt that came from. So the washing and drying could be the source of the fiber, and he could have had the red fiber on that shirt. Lisa, some of the households we examined for this fiber type, if this is one of the households examined for that fiber type, I would say it didn't come from washing his clothes there. Ford, okay, but if it came from the other two households, it could have, correct? Lisa, the two households we examined. Ford, okay, and the other two households could be the source, correct? Lisa,
Jeez.
if that person was from one of those households. Ford, all right, that's all, thank you. Price, nothing further. Fogelman asked about a blue fiber in or on one of the boys' hands. Lisa explained it was from the hand of Michael Moore. She said she compared it to the fibers collected from the mortuary and the fiber from the hand was microscopically similar to the fibers from the blanket. She believed they were nylon. Was the blue fiber similar to the blue fiber they are saying was from one of Damien's black t-shirts? Did she test any of the other fibers to see if they could have matched any of the other materials used between the removal of the bodies from the water and the examination? Wouldn't the fibers from his hand be found during the autopsy, or whatever they discovered the other fibers, which I would assume would have been prior to going to the funeral home?
They just keep going back and forth with the same question.
Yeah.
Like honestly, the answer, yes. If it can be transferred in the wash, it could come from anybody's, like any of them. Doesn't matter. That's the way it is.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, their kids are hanging out together, and
yeah,
it could literally come from anywhere, especially if they're like play fighting, right? I take care of boys and they play fight all the time. Back then, they play fight all the time. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's totally like
it's so irrelevant, and it's
but the sad part is now, like we know it's irrelevant, but during the trial, they made it seem very relevant, right? And then now fiber analysis it's debunked. It's not even a thing anymore, right? So
yeah,
it's one of those pseudosciences. So this whole trial, like a lot of it was based on this, and now we know it's nonsense.
yeah.
Like it makes you wonder every trial prior to deciding it was nonsense. Do you have to retry everybody? Like when they decide a certain science is no longer relevant or can be disproven.
Right.
What happens to all those other trials that people were convicted based off that science?
Right.
Okay, so while the testimony was later found to be incorrect, this testimony played a huge role in the conviction of Damien, Jason, and Jesse. Fogelman did a good job of essentially convincing the jury that the fibers came from Damien and Jason. It didn't matter that the robe they used and the red fibers was Damien's mom's robe, or that the fibers could have come from a number of other items, or that the one shirt was a size 6, as in for a 6-year-old. And there was no way Damien was able to fit in that shirt. There wasn't a single piece of fiber or hair evidence that could definitively match Jason, Damien, or Jesse to the crime scene or the bodies. Now we are going to read something that I happen to come across that I think is very interesting. Another thing that they took from Jason Baldwin's house was his journal/English notebook. They photographed each page and presumably to use it to show his character. However, I think it shows a different side than what Fogelman, I'm assuming, thought it showed. So, March 9th, 1993, Jason wrote, "I am pro-choice because the person is going to have an abortion no matter what the law says. It makes it just all easier for that person who must have troubles if they were wanting an abortion anyway to get one. I don't think abortions are right, but I know people are going to have them no matter what anybody says or does. So I think that I am pro-choice. If the mother can live with the guilt of knowing that she has killed her baby, then fine, let her do it. It's no skin off our back. Or is it?" So what do you guys think about that entry? Now, obviously, it's when like you're in English class and the teacher says, write an entry about this. And so they answer that question, right? But what do you think that, based on the fact that Jason wrote this, what do you think this says about him?
That he's open-minded.
Yeah.
Kind. He's looking at the world differently than he should, like, than a normal person would be.
Yeah. Sophia, what do you think? What do you think it says about him?
I don't know.
His character?
I think that it shows that he has a lot of empathy, to be honest.
Okay, there you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
well, he's pro-choice, right?
Yeah,
So,
he's saying
he's not saying no.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And I think, the fact that he's like, if it's the mom that has to live with that, right? So who are we to say she has to live with that guilt? But then I think the fact that he says it's no skin off our back, or is it, means that it affects everybody more than we think, right? Like it's not just the mom. So I think this shows empathy, and I think it was kind of a deep thought.
March 10th, 1993. I wouldn't want to be anyone in this class or any other class. I am satisfied with being who I am. I admit I have certain flaws I wish I didn't have, but that's life. Everyone has at least one thing about them that makes them special. My special quality is art. I have always been able to entrance people with my artwork, and I like that it is the one thing that I can do that mostly no one else can do. So I am happy with being myself. I feel like his parents have also brought him up a right way.
Yeah.
Like they gave him the right tools.
Kind. He's just a kind person, right?
Yeah. I think it shows self-awareness too, like knowing that he's got flaws, right? But so does everybody. So I think that shows some good self-awareness for sure.
March 11th, 93. Well, in my immediate future, I plan to graduate high school and go to some art college and major in commercial art. Within the next 10 years, I plan to be doing art for MTV on their videos and stuff, or doing album covers, t-shirts, etc. Within the next 30 years, I'll probably be mellowed down and be reduced to doing wildlife paintings at home and selling them. Or I may have my own tattoo business somewhere. Well, I guess that's just basically it with my career.
It just shows like he's a typical teenager and he has
he's-
thought about his future.
He's kind,
Yeah.
right? Like, and he doesn't, like, even with the abortion thing, he doesn't pass judgment,
No.
right? He's just
Yeah.
a kind person.
Yeah. So I think they would have used some of these, but not all of them. Like I don't think they would have talked about this one in trial. There's nothing that they can like scrutinize over.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is March 12th, 93. The kind of music I like mostly is heavy metal, but I listen to all kinds of music. My favorite groups are Metallica, Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Testament, Slayer, and Ozzy Osbourne. But I also like Guns N' Roses, Pink Floyd, Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pigface, Alice in Chains, and Pearl Jam. The reason I like this music is that it sounds good. Most of them make a point or a statement in their lyrics, and I like that. I don't like rap. That is only one kind of music I don't like. I'll listen to country or classical music, but not rap. That's what I think music is. Okay, so on this entry, there's a note from his teacher. These notes from his teacher they're a little annoying. And at one point, I'm gonna lose my shit, but not this one. But this entry says, there's a grade of D and a note from his teacher saying, Jason, we are now 10, writing 15 lines for an A, 10 for a D. You write well and you have a lot of good thoughts, but you need to realize that this journal grade is really hurting you and you are a better student than your grade reflects. I would give this teacher a lot more credit if he had written, he's an English teacher, if he'd have used punctuation, good sentence structure, and fucking made sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was so annoyed, like, because I'm reading it right off the picture of like the journal, and I'm like, dude, you are bitching about him only like not writing the amount of lines, but you're not even using correct punctuation. It was infuriating. But this is just typical teenager, right? Like they probably asked him about like what his favorite music is, and that was like the writing prompt. That's it. That was the writing prompt, and he had to write something, and he's just like, yeah, I like these bands and I like this music. Typical teenager. Nothing weird.
Well, and going through school myself, the teacher could have just not liked him too and was hard on him.
Oh, just wait, you're gonna see something that's gonna really piss you off. Well, I hope it does. It pissed me off. I'd like people to be pissed off with me.
March 15th, 1993. I think that the way teachers teach should change. Instead of giving a lot of work or busy work or to copy notes, I think the teachers should get up and teach it to us the whole class period. Because when I hear something out loud a few times, I can remember, plus know it very well. When I write it down, I am in such a hurry to write it down, I forget to learn it. So I just write it. When they teach it, I give it better results. The teacher wrote on this one, good point. I feel him there.
Right? Like this is very self-aware as a grade 10, 11. I'm not sure what grade he would have been in, but it's very self-aware to know how you learn best, right?
Yeah. March 16th, 1993. Today in our journal, we must free write. Some of us are asking, why free write? Can't he give us something to do? I just don't think of anything to write about, but that's when it hit me. Why don't I write about what free writing is? So I am. Free writing is a trick to get you thinking. When you free write, you let him know what you think so it can help him figure you out. He observes and studies you through those journals, but I know it, so it doesn't bother me. The note from the teacher says, you are half right. If we had smaller classes, we could get to know each other better, but I have to learn about you through journals. Also, it teaches you to be a better writer.
This fucking teacher. The reason I did every entry was just to show how just a teenager he is, right? They're not all significant. Like this one is not that significant of an entry, but it's just, this is just him. This is who he was. Okay, so March 19th, 1993. This one kind of, his teacher responds to this pisses me off. Okay, I am usually a calm person. I can take most of anything, but sometimes I get angry. When I do get angry, it is usually not a pretty sight. One time I had to babysit my little brothers. One is 8 and the other is 13. I let Matt, the 13-year-old, go outside and play or whatever. He went, and I let Terry, the 8-year-old, have some friends over. That was a mistake. I let them go in my room and play Super Nintendo while I watched TV in the living room. I thought I had everything under control, but I was wrong. Those kids got to fighting over the game and tore everything up in my room. It was a mess. I couldn't believe it. I made them all clean it up and leave. Then Matt got home, griping as usual, and started aggravating me. He would run up and hit me and say, "You can't hit me back, I'll tell Mom." So I said, "Tell Mom, boy, 'cause you're fixin' to get it." I ran over there and grabbed him into a chokehold and held him there until his face turned bright red and let him go. I said, "Mess with me again and it'll be worse." So he picked up a broom and he tried to hit me with it. I grabbed the handle, pulled it a little ways, then pushed, and it knocked him down. He didn't do anything else but say, "I'm still telling." I said, "So?" And he did, and I got grounded for nothing. The only teacher note was D. Honestly, I have 2 boys. They did shit like this all the time. Right? They're just brothers. They're actors. But I can just see the fucking prosecution up there being like, he put his brother in a chokehold. See what kind of person he if he's a fucking brother. That's what kind of person he is. He did it to the 13-year-old, if you notice, not the 8-year-old. And the 13-year-old was being a shit. Like, my boys did shit like that to each other all the time. It's just part of boys being boys. But I think him writing this entry I think it was good. Like, he talked about a situation that happened and he didn't hold back. I don't know. I think this was a good one. What do you guys think?
I kind of feel bad for him, though, that the teacher just keeps grading him on his feelings and his thoughts. Like, that's a journal. Like, it shouldn't be a graded activity. Like, if you're trying to get to know them, it should just be an open book that you just read it and you can have a comment, but that's about it. They should.
Yeah. Right? And didn't he say you have to have a certain amount of lines for an A? This is a whole lot of lines. Why didn't he get an A? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but his mom grounding him. What? I hope you ground the other one. Oh my God. But yeah,
the story seems maybe slightly a little bit made up, which it could be.
Oh, do you think so?
Yeah, I do.
Why? What makes you? I'm just like, yeah, my boys do shit like that all the time.
Yeah, but it could be, right? Slightly made up. He just needed something to write about, so that's what he came up with,
yeah.
Right?
It's totally possible.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that. I was just like, yeah, looks legit. I
He
had
had
two
to write
boys
about
that,
something he didn't know what to write about, so he just made up the story about watching his brother and having friends and,
yeah,
playing Nintendo in my room.
he did have to babysit his younger brothers a lot. So
And they got into a fight and tore apart his whole room. I don't know if your brother had friends over if they would tear apart your whole room. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
it's hard
just
to
a
say,
little
right?
bit, it just seems a little bit made up, but he just needed something to write about. So,
Yeah. No, that's fair.
right?
I
Yeah.
mean, I tore apart my sister's room when she was gone
Oh my God. But would you go to your sister's friend's house and tear apart her room?
with with the friend there. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
My friend came over and helped me terrorize my sister's room. Reed took her posters off the wall, put them on the ceiling. Reed did that.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God. How old were you?
I was in high school.
Oh my God. Well, that was more of a joke, right?
I locked her out of the house. Everything. No,
Yeah,
she
that was more
mad.
of joking around.
No, she was mad. She was mad. I was in trouble.
Oh, so
That's too
funny.
funny.
April 5th, 1993. I didn't know the girl very well. I seen her around every now and then. I know how people that knew her face because once my mother tried to commit suicide, and I know how I felt when that happened. It was pretty devastating. Since I was the one who found her and called 911 and kept her alive. But I am lucky my mother is well and happy now, and so am I. Jenny and her parents aren't, but nothing in the rest of their lives will ever be the same. Emotionally, I mean. The note from the teacher is simply 7, which is the number of lines he wrote.
This fucking pissed me off so much
Is the
because
teacher male or female?
male. But this actually happened.
Oh, yeah. I believe it.
And if a person, any teachers listening, if a person in your class writes this, you need to respond. The only thing I can hope is that the teacher did talk to him after class or at some point. I don't feel like the teacher did because to write simply 7 is
Yeah.
absolute bullshit. He witnessed his mom, like he found his mom who had attempted to commit suicide. He kept her alive. He called 911. All you took the time to write was 7. You fucking dick. You awful, awful teacher. It pissed me off so much.
Do you know the teacher's name?
I don't.
Okay.
I wish I did because I would have looked that bastard up.
Okay, April 6, 1993. One time 3 years ago, I entered this art contest in Tennessee, where I used to live, and I worked real hard to win, but I didn't. It almost made me want to quit trying to do anything about art. Well, I didn't have anything to do with art for a long while. Finally, I was at school one day and I was asked by one of my teachers to draw something. I hesitated, but then I just drew it to see how it would turn out, and everyone in class loved it. It made me happy. I haven't stopped drawing since. The teacher wrote, "You are good."
I'm sorry, but teacher, you took the time and you wrote, "You are good" on that one,
Yeah.
but nothing for it just because obviously I'm going back to that other one. I believe what happened was there was somebody in their school that committed suicide, like another student in the school,
Yeah,
right?
seems that way.
So that's traumatic in of itself. And for the students to write about that, you need to give some response. But not only does your student write about it, he adds on his whole other own traumatic experience, and you do nothing. But then when he tells you about this, like, oh, I didn't win this contest and wasn't sure if I was going to do art again, you're like, oh, but you're good. That's not the guidance he needed.
April 7th, 1993. One time I sold a reel to the person that lives across the street to me for $20. All he had right then was $10. He gave me that. Then a month later, he gave me the reel back and said that he couldn't get the other $10 and told me not to worry about the 10 he had already given me. So I took the reel back to Walmart and cashed it in for $40. When I told him, he got so mad he could have gained $20. The note from the teacher again was 7.
Okay, this one's just funny. For real? I'm guessing that's like a fishing reel.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Okay, so April 8th, 93, I think that they should have a waiting period because if you're buying a gun to be buying and not intend to use it for a method of violence, then you probably wouldn't mind waiting. But someone who doesn't have a gun and wants to kill somebody or something will probably cool off in 2 weeks and not want to buy it by then. That way, crimes would be stopped. But really, if anyone wants to get a gun these days, you can get them anywhere and everywhere. I mean, he's got a good point. There should be a waiting period. I don't know if there is because we don't buy guns here, but he doesn't seem overly violent.
Yeah, he
No,
seems
he
very
doesn't seem
calm.
violent at all.
Yeah. And he's had run-ins with the police prior to the situation, but I don't know. And some of them were like assault charges, I think. I think there was one assault charge or like for fighting, whatever. Boys fight. I don't think that's that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Oh, so the note from the teacher for this one was 9 for the lines and a D. So this one isn't a journal, but on a single piece of paper, but has a similar structure of answering a question as the other entries. I would come to the party dressed as a doctor who does abortions, because that is the most hideous real life thing I have heard of. I would have scalpels, tweezers, and those grip-like surgical pliers, needles filled with saline, blood dripping from my rubber gloves, and have a clay-formed dying baby on a stretcher next to me, just lying there screaming because it is dying, and no one is there that cares enough to save its poor little life. That is what I think is the scariest costume in the world. I feel like abortion really bothers him.
Yep.
I feel like he wants to be pro-choice because he understands it's their body type thing, but I think the thought of killing a baby really bothers him.
Yeah, well, he had said, he's like, people are gonna do it no matter what.
Yeah,
So, right, but it sounds like it bothers him.
yeah. I just can't see this seems to bother him a lot. I can't see him then turning around and killing 3 8-year-olds.
No.
They're killing anything, I feel like would bother him.
Yeah.
Not just a baby, just anything.
And he has an 8-year-old brother. Like at the time, he had an 8-year-old brother. There, I don't know. I've never got the vibe that, and I do understand a lot of people think out of the three of them, the least likely to have done it is Jason. 100%. I just don't get the vibe from him that he's violent or any type of bloodlust or anything. But I thought these journal entries were interesting.
Yeah, they are.
So, kind of shows you a little bit of who he was at the time. Like he's just a regular teenager with thoughts.
It's still mind-blowing that he gets graded on a journal.
Right? I don't remember ever of doing a journal in school. Is that not like super intrusive? Like,
See, I've done a journal, but it wasn't that kind of journaling. It was like, how was your weekend? Write about your weekend or something like that. It wasn't actually like go deep in thought.
yeah,
Like that, I would keep to myself.
right? I can't see very many high school students being like, oh, let me share with you, teacher, my deepest, darkest thoughts. I sure know that I was not. I wouldn't now. I never, like, even as a writer who does share a lot of like personal things, but they're like in ways that it's not me saying it, right? Like, that's how I would have done it. I would have been very creative and been like, just not, it would not have seemed like it was about me because no thanks. I don't want to tell my high school English teacher,
I
fuck all.
don't even think my kids do journals in the grades they are.
I kind of remember my boys doing something in elementary, but like it was like, this is what I did for summer. This is like that kind of stuff, right? Like really, and in elementary, they don't have deep, dark thoughts and feelings. Like, I mean, maybe they do, but if they do, it's usually because of some trauma. So yeah, so that's it. Ta-da! So that's it for Moms on Mics this week.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Moms on Mics Podcast, on TikTok at Moms on Mics, and join our Facebook group, Moms on Mics.
If anyone has any topics you would like us to cover, or if you have any questions or suggestions, you can email us at momsonmics@gmail.com or submit through our website, momsonmics.com.
We would also appreciate it if you could rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening on. It really helps the podcast move up on their charts so it gets more exposure. I hope you join us again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.